Welcome to Tossin the Pigskin. I'm your host, Nate Smith. Today we will discuss all the latest news in the NFL. Week 6 is in the books, and we will preview the best games to come this weekend. We will break down Chiefs-Raiders, and as always, we will give you the best fantasy advice you could ever dream of. Let's go! As customary, let's get right into it with a little Thursday night breakdown, TNB. Believe it or not, Kansas City's dirty laundry just saved Oakland's season. During the final seconds of the game, the Chiefs' defense was penalized twice for holding. This turn of events breathed new life into Oakland, and they took advantage. Derek Carr found Michael Crabtree, who hauled in the game-winning score with zeros remaining on the clock. Coming into this game, the Raiders were 2-4 and sitting in last place in the AFC West. For the time being, they have leapfrogged the Chargers into third place. More than anything else, this has to be a confidence booster for Oakland. Not only did they beat arguably the best team in football right now, but Amari Cooper finally broke out of his abysmal slump, posting pedestrian numbers over his first 6 games. Cooper abused the Kansas City secondary. He finished with 210 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. He had more yards receiving in this game alone than in all of his other previous games combined. Now, I'm not saying everything is hunky-dory in the Bay, but the Raiders have a little momentum going. So let's see if they can start stacking up some wins together. And with that, I'm joined alongside my co-host, Vinny Asito. Vinny, how are we doing today?
Doing good. Let's get into it.
As you guys can see, we got a new table going on here. The new studio set looking fresh as always. So we'll get right into it with the morning slate of games. But before we do that, Oakland with the huge win last night, Vin. They're now moved to 3-4. Are they officially back?
I wouldn't say they're back just yet, but being 2-5, if they would have lost, opposed to 3-4 as they are now, obviously looks a lot better. And Kansas City's still in the division. You got the Broncos in the division, but I do think if they keep this up, Derek Carr keeps playing well, and they need to keep Amari Cooper utilizing that offense. He has to continue to have big games like this, but I think Oakland can slip into a wild card in the AFC, who hasn't really looked that dominant yet this year.
Yeah, see, I'm not too sold on Oakland yet, honestly. I mean, the Marshawn Lynch experiment clearly hasn't worked. He really has been ineffective through, 6 games now, or that was the start of week 7, but I just think that offense, obviously Amari Cooper's resurgence last night was a huge deal for them. But in order for them to keep rolling, I feel like they almost need that extreme production from Crabtree, Cooper, and Carr. And obviously there's going to be days when they're off, but that defense, I just don't think that defense is good enough to carry them.
Just brought in Navarro Bowman.
Right,
so.
what do you think about that? Do you think that'll make a difference?
I mean, people didn't know if he'd even play this week. He came in, played 60 out of 62 snaps, 11 tackles, which was a team high, so I think he can make a difference.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I was a little surprised when San Francisco released him. I mean, he was a Pro Bowl level talent, all-pro. Obviously had the horrific knee injury a couple years ago against Seattle, but we'll look for him to see if he can make a difference on the stretch. But they've had trouble defending the deep ball, and that secondary is a bit of a mess right now. All right, shifting gears a little bit. Obviously, last week we had Aaron Rodgers go down. Him and Tom Brady, the faces of quarterbacking in the NFL. What do you think that does for the landscape of the NFC moving forward?
I mean, like you said, he's a face of the NFL right now, and you got guys like Richard Sherman coming out and tweeting that the NFL is better when he's healthy, and that just shows right then and there, not only Richard Sherman, but other players coming out and sharing their condolences for him. It just shows how important he is, and I mean, losing Aaron Rodgers is obviously going to hurt the Green Bay Packers. Brett Hundley now has to step in and take over that offense. Young quarterback. Who knows? I mean, we'll see, but.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. I think this team arguably was a Super Bowl contender before this injury. Now, I don't think they make the playoffs. I mean, not to say Brett Hundley couldn't do anything. Like, we'll see. I'm genuinely curious. He's had a few years in that McCarthy system. He's not, besides Tom Brady, probably the best person to back up in the entire league. I'm not sure how him and Aaron's relationship is. I could see Aaron being the kind of guy that doesn't really like to teach and just kind of does his own thing. But, I mean, we'll have to take a look at that. But defensively, do you think the Packers could do enough to maybe remain competitive throughout the rest of the year?
Maybe remain competitive in the division, but I really don't see them coming out and making the playoffs, especially compared to the AFC. The NFC has been much more better this year. Just the teams they have the good defenses, and I just don't think the Packers have enough to get the job done.
So who's your new favorite in the NFC North now?
I think the Vikings can win the division. I really do. If not, I think Detroit. I just don't see Green Bay being able to. I don't know. Like you said, Brett Hundley, it's going to be very interesting to see what he can do, but he has the team on his back now, so we'll see. He's never been a starter in the league before. So
yeah, that's true. We'll see if Hundley can lead this offense to anything, because obviously they have explosive weapons everywhere. You got Nelson, Cobb, Adams. Running game has been a bit of a mess, though. Kind of a question mark with Montgomery. Not really a true running back. They've struggled with running backs ever since Eddie Lacy started falling off, so that'll be interesting to see. But I have to agree with you. I think Minnesota ends up being the new favorite in this division. Detroit's kind of fallen off after a hot start.
Yeah.
What impresses me about Minnesota, though, is they don't really have a true quarterback. I mean, they've been doing this with
Bradford
Case Keenum.
Bradford Keenum.
And Bridgewater's coming back now, so I guess technically speaking, Keenum would be the third string on that roster. I mean, if Bridgewater was fully healthy, which he's not. But the fact that they're winning games with just proves how good that defense is.
Talk about defense.
Their defense wins championships. People always say it's the old cliche, but that front seven is just disgusting. Their secondary shuts people down. So, I honestly think Minnesota can ride that defense to a division title.
I agree.
Well, that'll just about do it for this segment. Coming up next, we'll look at the slate of games and give you our picks. Keep it here. Welcome back in, folks, to Tossin the Pigskin. Now we're going to get into the breakdown of the morning slate of the games. First up on the slate, we have Saints at Packers. What do you think about this one, Vin?
I'm taking the Saints. I think Drew Brees has been very hot lately, and like we just mentioned, Green Bay, quite the question mark. We don't know how Brett Hundley's going to perform at quarterback. It is in Lambeau, so they will have the crowd behind them, but I think the Saints get the job done. And that defense, I mean, not known for it, but they have been playing better of late.
Yeah, I was going to say, that defense last week against Detroit put together a few scores on special teams defense combined. So, I like the Saints in this one as well. Obviously, Brett Hundley's debut, no one really knows how that's going to go. But rookie corner for the Saints, Marshawn Lattimore, has really been playing well out of Ohio State and kind of bringing an attitude to that defense that, has been known to give up huge plays and tons of yards the past few years. Right. So, I like the Saints in this one as well. Just a bummer, though. We could have seen Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers. That would have been great.
It's devastating.
But, it is what it is. All right, moving on here. We got Ravens at Vikings. What do you think about this one?
Well, no Bradford, no Diggs again. As we found out this morning, Diggs will miss another game. But Adam Thielen, top 5 in the league in receiving so far. Kyle Rudolph's been showing up of late. I think Case Keenum at home, I think they can beat the Ravens. Yeah,
and it's a shame, too. I hope Diggs can get healthy soon because, honestly, him and Thielen, they might rival Green Bay for one of the best duos in the league at receiver because through the first 3 weeks, Diggs was on fire. He was one of the They were both, I think, top 5 in receiving yards at one point. So, I like Minnesota in this one as well. The Ravens are a weird team. They go week to week, it seems like, inconsistency with Joe Flacco and that offense. But the big thing here is it's tough to play in Minnesota. I really don't think they'll be able to get the job done. It's tough to run against this defense. They're 3rd in the league in rush defense. So they're going to make Flacco air it out, and I think they're going to make him pay. Moving to the afternoon, we have Broncos at Chargers. What do you think about this one?
I mean, a week ago, this would sound like a garbage game, but I mean, it's quite interesting now. I mean, the Chargers are on a little 2-game win streak. Broncos are coming off a loss against a depleted Giants team on Sunday Night Football that I don't think anyone really saw coming, but it is in San Diego. But I think Von Miller.
It's in LA.
Yeah. Oh, LA. True. I always forget about the switch.
Even LA fans still know it's there.
But with Von Miller, I think he'll just be too much for that offensive line, and I think he gets after Phillip Rivers. I think the Broncos have a bounce back game.
I think he does get after Phillip Rivers as well. But I'm taking the other side. I actually like Los Angeles in this one. There's just something about the AFC West where it seems like no matter who's winning what and whose record is what, they always seem to play each other tough. It's just something common within a division.
Yep.
So I like the Chargers in this one. I think it'll be close, maybe down to a field goal or so. But Rivers has been playing well. They have a really good receiving core as well. So I'm really interested to watch that matchup between Denver's secondary and LA's receivers and see who kind of wins that battle. So that'll be interesting to keep an eye on. All right, moving to Sunday night, probably the best game of the weekend, or at least looks like it might be. Yeah. We got the Super Bowl rematch, Falcons at Patriots. What do you think about this one?
I'm taking Brady. I mean, it's a Super Bowl rematch, big stage, and the Falcons, I mean, they're coming off 2 straight losses to the Bills the Dolphins at home, and now they have another AFC East opponent who's obviously the best opponent in the division in the Patriots, and I just think Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, all those receivers, all those weapons, too much for the Falcons to handle.
Yeah, I think the Pats are going to be too much. I agree with you. I like the Pats in this one. Brandon Cooks, man, he's been on fire.
Each week, just
I really don't understand why the Saints let him go. He had 3 1,000-yard receiving years with them, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, yeah, we'll let you go. Just another weapon for Brady who arguably didn't even need one. But, yeah, I mean, to be frank, New England's defense sucks. Like, it hasn't been good this year. So I think this one ends up being a classic shootout, in my opinion. I think you're looking at maybe 35-33, somewhere around there, maybe even to the 40s. We'll see. But down the stretch, I do think New England wins this game, but down the stretch, their defense has to improve. They've been playing very uncharacteristically for a Bill Belichick-led group. You normally don't see blown assignments, the mental lapses they've had. So I'm looking to see on primetime, they'll be under the scrutiny of the nation to see if their defense can play a little better against the former MVP, Matt Ryan. All right, moving to Monday night, I like this game a lot too. Redskins at Eagles, big-time NFC East clash. Eagles are arguably the best team in the NFC
best
right
record now.
They do, in the whole league, right. So do you think they're for real? Do you think they win this one?
I think they're for real. I mean, Carson Wentz, he's playing clearly at an MVP level, and that defense, they fly around as well, and I don't know, I just think they give Kirk Cousins a run for his money, but at the same time, just too much, and it's in Philly, and that's a tough place to play. So
yeah, I know you do mention Philly is a very tough place to play. Very unfriendly fans. I know from personal experience. I've actually been there before. To the old link.
It's brutal.
Anyways, I got to go with the upset on this one, actually. I just have a feeling about the Redskins this week. I don't have a lot of stats to back it up. It's just one of those gut feelings that sometimes those NFC East games, they always seem to be close. They're competitive late. Last time they played, the Eagles handled them pretty well in the early weeks of the season, but I think if Washington can get their running game going, then they have a chance to exploit this defense. That's easier said than done. I mean, Thursday night against the Panthers last week, the Eagles just absolutely shut down Carolina's run game, could not move the ball.
Couldn't do a thing.
And the Redskins aren't really known for being able to run the ball that well. So that's the matchup I'm keeping an eye on. They are 5-point favorites, though, Philly is, and with good reason. I mean, they're at home. Arguably the best team in the league, definitely the NFC right now. But I got to take the Redskins. There's something about Kirk. I think he's had a big game last week against San Francisco. I think that offense will start churning a little bit. So we'll see. But I like the Redskins in this one. Alrighty, moving on. We'll get to the fantasy segment right after the break. Keep it here. Welcome back on into Tossin the Pigskin. Now it's time for everybody's favorite segment, Little Fantasy Football. But before we get to that, Vinny, all the games we talked about and all the slates, which game catches your eye the most this weekend?
I mean, what Super Bowl rematch doesn't intrigue you? We got Atlanta at New England this week. I'm really interested in seeing how Atlanta comes out. They got to be